What's happening, folks? So, I'm finna get on this just because this is like one of the trendy topics, and I'm not always gonna do trendy topics. I'm just doing this topic because it's kind of near and dear to me, and it's near and dear to me only because my family, not all of my family, so those family members who are watching of mine, you know who you are. They are so serious about this Gucci thing, right? And let me tell you something. This is my thoughts. This is my opinions on it. So if you ain't one of them persons, be like, "Who are you? Nobody cares what you think. I don't care what you think." Then go ahead and click off the video, man. It ain't gonna hurt nobody's feelings. So usually I do this on my podcast. I do these truck chronicles, right, where I talk about situations and my thoughts and bring up topics while I'm driving my truck on my way to work, right? Driving my truck on my way to work to drive my truck. So kind of funny. Anyways, so to the Gucci situation, there shouldn't be any outrage. I think the outrage comes from the fact that these upscale celebrities, rappers, people with a whole bunch of money that are in our community, the black sector, I guess you can say, if that's how you want to chop it up. They're outraged because they done spent so much money on these products, right? Gucci. Listen to the songs that just came out not too long ago, by the youth, right? Gucci flip flops. Everybody's wearing Gucci. They got Gucci headbands and Gucci backpacks and Gucci purses, and I got Gucci and Fendi and Prada all on me, and this is a way to like be boastful. This is a way to like one up on the people who can't afford that type of stuff, right? So this is what you're supposed to aspire. Even young, what is YBN Corday? He was saying how like we got to rap to get the bag, and then once they get the bag, then they go and they spend the money on these things. Not once are we taught coming up, because I'm gonna stay on topic today. Usually I veer off, and I make it kind of entertaining because I talk about other things, and then you be trying to figure out how did I get to one thing from another. But today I'm not gonna do that. Today this is a serious topic, right? So as I'm talking about it, I'm understanding how serious it is and how we're not realizing where the problem comes from, or we're choosing to ignore where the problem comes from. All of the people that are outraged grew up in the 80s and the 90s, right? You grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and this was painted to you by hip hop, by mass media. In those days, we didn't have social media, so you're talking about watching TV and stuff like that, commercials, and in every rap video, this is what rappers wore, and you wanted to be like these people. You wanted to emulate it. Well, as people grow up, right, their thought processes change, and to you, it's just a record, right? If you're the entertainer, you're the rapper, or what have you, you're the person who's able to afford these things. To you, it's just a song. But to that little kid who's watching at 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, eventually they're going to grow up, right? And eventually when they grow up, this is what they've been aspiring to get to, because this is the signification of wealth, or so we think, right? This is the picture that's been painted to us. This is the ideology that we've been ingrained with, is that this is when you've made it, when you can afford these things: Gucci, Fendi, Prada, Lambos, Audemars watches and things like that. When you can do this stuff, then you've made it. Now, and it's our community, right? The people who are the makers of these things, that's not how they operate. That's not a sign of their wealth. That's not a sign that they made it. That's not a sign of their success. That's not ever what they teach their kids, right? They teach their kids to own these things so they can sell them to us. And this is why we can't have wealth in the community, right? And you know how I'm always talking about multifaceted problems that create one giant problem. So whatever the giant thing is, when you say this is a problem in our community, there's a whole bunch of factors that cause that, and you can't just stop one factor and think that that's going to change it, because it's not. The problem is we don't understand money, period. We don't understand wealth, period, right? So When you start sectoring those things off, as you start to understand money, as you start to understand wealth, and then you move on to understanding other things, you have less time to argue about stuff like this. Who cares if they made something that is racially offensive, right? It's racially offensive to you as an individual, but there's somebody else that looks just like you, that shares your skin color, that probably comes from the same hood that you come from, or comes from a similar hood just in a different city. And guess what? They don't think it's racially charged. They think it's funny. They think it's cool. They don't care one way or another. Or they already bought one and they're just not telling you, right? Because we're talking about this sweater, right? It's blackface. Yeah, it's blackface. For those of us who are in the know and stuff like that, we know what it is as far as blackface goes. We know how that works. We know what racism is. We know what how systematic it is. We know that it's not a group of people. We know that it is a whole system that functions off principles, and principles don't change. And when those principles don't change, you're going to get the same result no matter what it is. I don't care what clothing line it is. I don't care what car it is, what company, what industry, what big conglomerate it is. If it is structured off of those principles of supremacy and racial divide, then you will always get this outcome. They are very calculated. So even when they issue an apology like they did, you can read the apology and read right through it if you're in the know. But if you're like the general population that you think is the mass population, and it's not. It's not a mass population of people that are in the know just because you have a wealth of knowledge at your fingertips with these smartphones, and you have the internet, and you have computer, and you have ability to do research. Ability. But the only way for an ability to be carried out is if the person carries it out. So it doesn't matter if you have the ability to do something if you're not doing it. How much sense does that make? So you're trying to apply all of these principles to people who don't deserve the application of these principles, right? Which in my mind, I just don't understand why it's done like that. And I'm not gonna make this real quick. Make this short and sweet and simple. You're outraged about something, number one, that's all the way out of your class. If you don't have any Gucci, Fendi, or Prada in your closet, or that you bought, or that you put some money into, or that you bought stocks in, then you really don't have a dog in the race. So what are you outraged for? If you do, if you spent all this money on it and you're just now boycotting it now, you mean to tell me that the whole time that you were spending thousands of dollars on this Gucci stuff, you didn't know that company was racist? You didn't know that they operated off of racist principles, and that is systematic? You didn't know that they pay millions of dollars for public relations and advertisement, and they target a certain type of person, and no publicity is bad publicity. So they yank at your emotions, they yank at your feelings, they offer you an apology, and then they throw some other stuff down, and they do all this so that they can keep their sales in the black. Has nothing to do with you. Has nothing to do with you as an individual, especially if you're black. So if that's what you're thinking, and you're outraged, and you're going to boycott this now, and you didn't think about none of this stuff 10, 20, 30 years ago, then you got a bigger issue. You got a bigger problem than Gucci just doing some blackface stuff. Hello. So yeah, I'm in my house now. I ain't got time to be discussing these topics because it's stupid. Just keep buying Gucci and love it.